Yo, what is up, everybody? We are playing Voldusk Control today. This is probably my favorite deck in Moonrise by a lot. I really like this deck. And normally I don't play it with Volclipse, but you're going to see a lot of Volclipse today because I pulled a full art and I wanted to play with a pretty full art. So I modified my deck that I would be running into a Volclipse Voldusk Control, which might sound weird because why don't you play the 2 and the 3 drop of the Voldusk line in the deck? Is because Voldusk is good enough on its own. So let's jump into the deck. And in case you're wondering, before you say anything, yes, there are only 9 1-drops in this deck. Sort of. We'll get into that in a second. We'll start with Rabbit. Rabbit's fairly straightforward. We're playing a control deck and we want to find all of our control pieces and our combo pieces we need, so Rabbit, straightforward. We're running 1 Ambrosia because we have plenty of ways to heal in this deck between Voldusk and Waning Crescent, which we'll go over in a moment. 2 PTAs, 3 shields. This could be 3 PTAs, 2 shields. Your mileage may vary. And there's also ways to squeeze more counter runes in this deck without the Volclipse, which we'll get into in the wrap-up after all the games. And 3 Gorgon Skates. So now that we went over the stuff that we all know is going to be in the deck, let's talk about the fun stuff. Voldusk is a 1/5 for 1 Lunar. When you cast a Lunar phase, you can draw a card or return Lunar from your Underworld to your Spirit deck. It's going to be activated twice each turn. It's twice each turn per Voldusk. So we have 2 Voldusk in play, which isn't difficult to do in this deck at all. When we play 1 Lunar phase, we could potentially draw 2 or recover 2 or draw 1, recover 1, however we want to mix and match the Voldusk triggers. And then we could do another Lunar phase, now draw another 2 cards. So in theory, it kind of scales, not exponentially, but for every Voldusk we play, every Lunar phase gets significantly better. So the deck is completely built around getting Voldusk, which we have 3 Voldusk, but in reality, we have 6 Voldusk because of Lunar Phase, Waning Gibbous, which allows us to shuffle Lunar Phase, Volumbra, of Volclipse from our hand or Underworld into our deck to search for a Voldusk and add it to your hand. So this is effectively just lets us search for Voldusk. And the fact that we can put stuff from our Underworld into our deck means that we can use a card like New Moon or Waning Crescent, which we'll get into in a moment, to then just get a Volclipse out of our deck. So we don't even, that shuffle isn't really restrictive that much. So this is Voldusk 4, 5, and 6. And then we can kind of get to Voldusk 7, 8, 9 through Werepup. So Werepup's a 1 cost for 3, 2. When you normal cast Werepup, you can search your deck for a Lunar Phase, full stop. When a normal cast, search for Lunar Phase, so hey, we can go search for the card that now searches for Voldusk. So we can get Voldusk through a Werepup, but hey, maybe we don't need that. We can search for Pseudo Earthquake with New Moon, healing, combo pieces, synergy cards, like it searches everything in the deck we want to do. So it basically searches Baby Ambrosia, Baby Earthquake, Baby Voldusk, and it just gets us to the cards that we need super easily. And this eats Gorgon's Gazes like nobody's business, which makes it better to get our Volclipse out later on, which we'll talk about when we get to Volclipse in a second. We have 1 Like Void in the deck. I would like to run 2, but since I'm running 2 Volclipse for consistency, I cut Like Void down to 1. It's a 6/2 for 2 Lunar, and deals piercing damage and is unaffected by counter runes if you cast Lunar Phase Full Moon this turn, making it a pretty good aggressive threat. It usually hits for 3 to 4 damage because you're specialing it off of Werepup's second effect, which allows you to special cast or special send it to a Like Void from your hand or deck when you cast Full Moon. Full Moon's a 1 cost counter rune that when you enchant, they allow you to enchant up to 2 Lunar to an Elestral on your field, and when it's discarded by a Lunar Phase, foretell 3. The discard's not always relevant, sometimes it is, but this allows us to enchant 2 to Werepup, ascend a Like Void, punch for 3 to 4 damage, or allows us to put any Lunar Spirits on our 1-drops and ascend into Volclipse. So Volclipse is online through Full Moon and any of our 1-drops in play. And we can hard ascend into Volclipse, which is a 6/12 for 3 Lunar, and it gets 1 attack for every different title among Lunar Phases in Underworld, which there are 8 different Lunar Phases, so we can get up to 14 attack, and then you can shuffle 8 Lunar Phases with different titles from your Underworld into your deck to return the opponent's field to their hand. So it's a board wipe for no cost, assuming you get all 8 Lunar Phases in your Underworld, which isn't too difficult. That's all of our Elestrals. We're playing 11 Elestral, or 12 Elestrals, 9 1-drops, pseudo 12 1-drops with the ability to search Voldusk, pseudo maybe 15 with the ability to use Werepup to search Voldusk, and we'll get into a pseudo 18 1-drops with another card. But let's go through all the Lunar Phases because that's the rest of the meat of the deck. Lunar Phase, Waning Crescent. This allows you to return 2 Lunar from Underworld to your Spirit deck, so it's a baby Ambrosia. That's all it really you're going to use it for. It's going to trigger Voldusk, so it can be used for a 1-cost return 3 like Ambrosia, or a kind of 1-cost draw 1, so cycle through your deck with the Voldusk in play. And hey, if you get 2 Voldusk in play, well now it's heal 2, draw 2, or heal 4. It gets out of hand with the amount of Voldusk you can get in play. Lunar Phase New Moon is good on its own. It's basically, it does have a cost of discarding a Lunar Phase, but we see with cards like Waning Crescent and Full Moon, there are benefits to discarding Lunar Phase, so that downside of 2 for 1ing our opponent by discarding card to trigger New Moon to destroy it like an Earthquake would, now also triggers another effect, so it's just kind of tagging on some additional effects for the fact that this is more costly than an Earthquake. Earthquake is 2 costs. This hitting a 1-drop is 2 costs, hitting a 2-drop is 3 costs, hitting a 3 costs is a 4. So it is more expensive than Earthquake, but it's all upside other than it being more expensive. It also suppresses. The more important fact is just to destroy something on board, and hey, we can make it cheaper or cycle it by using Voldusk trigger. So hey, cool, pop your thing with a fake Earthquake, draw a card. Or hey, I'm going to pay 1 now and destroy your 1-drop and recover 1 spirit, so it's effectively like I'm paid only 1 instead of 2 to destroy it. Really versatile. Again, with Voldusk in play, there's a lot of stuff you can do with New Moon, and it's at worst a removal card that is actually relevant and good to play. We already talked a little about Waning Gibbous. It's going to be our copies 4, 5, and 6 of Voldusk. And then we have Final Quarter. The only reason we're playing Final Quarter is because we're playing Volclipse. This allows us to dump 3 Lunar Phases from our Underworld, or 2 Underworlds from our deck, which means playing 1 Final Quarter is adding 3 to our total title count in the Underworld, because we can play Final Quarter and then just dump 2 titles we don't have in the Underworld yet. It also is a little bit of deck thinning in that way, but it makes it really easy to actually get to 8 titles for Volclipse to trigger. Not so easy that I want to run 3, because you really only want to see maybe 1 or 2 of these in a game, because you're going to be drawing engine so much stuff with your Voldusks that it's not too unheard of to get to all your other Lunar Phases and use this to dump whatever's remaining. So playing this later to just kind of get to the 8 versus playing it early to deck thin is usually better, but either work fine, especially when you have a Voldusk in play. It cycles itself anyway. Lastly, we have Lunar Phase First Quarter, and this allows you to just counter rune speed, draw a card, which is pot of greed for Yu-Gi-Oh players. Additionally, you can discard a Lunar Phase to return a Voldusk. There's nothing after Voldusk, I swear, from Underworld to your hand. So this is kind of like Voldusk 7, 8, 9. So if a Voldusk dies and we play First Quarter, well, now we can just discard a Lunar Phase and put Voldusk back in our hand during our opponent's turn, and then play Voldusk again, and then go for the rest of what we're trying to do with the deck. So even though we're playing 9 1-drops, it's like we're almost playing 18, 15 if you want to reduce your boy math a little bit. But Lunar Phase First Quarter is just good utility. I mean, to draw a card with a Voldusk in play, it's a 1-cost draw 2. And additionally, against like Hurricane and Thunderstorm decks, this lets you bait those out pretty consistently. You set 2 First Quarters if you happen to draw them. Or you set a First Quarter and maybe a Gorgon's Gaze, they might Thunderstorm the First Quarter. Or if they go for a Hurricane, well, now you can at least First Quarter and do shenanigans that way. It's pretty useful that way. Full Moon, we went over. And then Waxing Gibbous and Waxing Crescent. I only play Waxing Crescent because I'm playing Volclipse. It's not that great of a card. And normally I'd only play Waxing Gibbous in a side deck to go up against other Lunar cards. Or potentially to, if my opponent's playing like Removal Turbo or something. But Waxing Gibbous is too niche with the fact that it's going to put our Voldusk usually from defense to attack position where it's more vulnerable to attacks in order to prevent it from being hit by like a removal card. Or vice versa, we might take a Voldusk that's in attack position and put in defense just to save it from like an Eddy or something, which is nice, but too niche to really justify putting more than 1 copy, I think, in the deck running Volclipse. However, I would definitely side the rest of your Waxing Gibbuses almost every single time. I would never side Waxing Crescent. So that is the deck. Let's check out the games, and I'll see you guys in the wrap-up. This deck is so much fun. So let's talk in the wrap-up. Enjoy the matches.
Subscribe to Words.
Hey, subscribe to Words.
Subscribe to Words, bro.
Subscribe to Word.
Sub to Words, by the way.
It's literally just us telling people to subscribe to Words. No!
All right, so let's start with our first game. I really want to show you this game specifically because it gets pretty crazy. So we'll start with the Voldusk. go. Lunar Phase Final Quarter. This is going to let me send I believe it's Waxing Crescent and a Waning Crescent. I'm going to use that Waning Crescent in a second to play the Invoke that searches. I can never remember the name of the lunar phases, so good luck reminding me what they are. Waning Gibbous. So I'm going to use Waning Gibbous to basically search for another Voldusk, get another Voldusk trigger. So I've drawn 2 cards now off of lunar phases this turn, off that Voldusk, as well as search another Voldusk. So I have another Voldusk ready to go. I'm going to set 2 here and pass an opponent who's going to play Rabbit. So my opponent knows I have a second Voldusk in my hand. They're going to set 1, and they're going to actually go for an Earthquake against my Voldusk here, which I don't know how good of an idea that is, especially knowing I have a second Voldusk. But also, getting 2 Voldusk out and no proper answer to them means I'm going to get so much card advantage. However, I did have the one of Waxing Gibbous face down, which allows me to, well, unfortunately turn my Voldusk to attack position, which I don't need to do, but I can then also expend a Lunar and discard a Lunar Phase in order to prevent it from being destroyed by Earthquake here, which is pretty powerful, which is going to let me trigger my Voldusk to get another draw, as well as, because I discarded Waning Crescent, I can now draw and then discard to get basically another draw. So that's 2 draws into discard on my opponent's turn and protecting my Voldusk, which puts me in a pretty good position because now I'm going to play a second Voldusk this turn. Put my Voldusk into defense because it's not going to be able to swing over Rabbit anytime soon. And we'll start getting ready to play some more lunar phases. We're going to set 3. I got plenty of back row. My opponent's going to play a Kinleo because he's playing what turns out to be a Fire Nexus deck. After Kinleo plays Volcanic Forge, he's going to immediately try to Nexus off of Volcanic Forge to Kinleo, which unfortunately for him, one of the cards I pulled was Gorgon's Gaze, which I'm going to let the Kinleo stockpile its spirits up and prevent it from destroying my Voldusk. So now I've prevented 2 of my Voldusk being destroyed. I drew a 3rd Voldusk for turn, play it, so I have 3 Voldusk. I'm going to trigger a first quarter, which allows me to draw a card, and get 3 more triggers to draw a total of 4 cards off of that 1 card cast. Just cascading triggers on the side of the screen, as you guys see. Like, that's just draw, draw, draw. So I've drawn 7 or 8 cards now. I'm going to play another Lunar Phase, draw another 3 cards, send 2 more Lunar Phases to my Underworld, and get almost up to 8 here now. With even more draws, it's another 3 draws. So I drew 6 cards plus 1. I drew 7 cards this turn off of all these Voldusk Lunar Phases at my start of the turn. I'm just going to go full set 4 pass and see what you have with your Kinleos. And my opponent's going to make a pretty big blunder here, I think, with the Kinleo. So he's going to use the Kinleo he just cast this turn to Nexus 1 to itself, allowing me to now Gorgon's Gaze the Kinleo that Nexus to itself and activate the ability, both locking those spirits from being Nexus to another card, meaning he can't use his second Kinleo to knock out a Voldusk. My opponent's going to get stuck there with that misplayed past turn. I'm going to play Waning Crescent to recover some spirits and draw a bunch more cards with my Voldusk, and I believe I recover 1 spirit as well, so basically just Ambrosia drew 2, and Hard Ascend into my Volclipse, which is like, my opponent's got 1 face down. If it's PTA, I don't care about PTA because I can bounce everything, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 different titles in my Underworld. Volclipse is going to go off and trigger and bounce my entire opponent's board, so that, yes, that means he's going to get his Kinleos back to his hand, but I don't think he's got any Nexus Banks, or at least I'm assuming he doesn't have any Nexus Banks, and we bounced whatever that face down was. It definitely wasn't PTA. If it was Gorgon's Gaze, he probably would have Gorgon's my Volclipse, so I'm in a good spot. That just dealt 4 damage directly. He lost 4 spirits in the process of the Volclipse going off, and now he's got to figure out what to do with these Kinleos. So he's going to play Kinleo in attack position here. Expect, okay, he drew Nexus Bank. Why would he do attack position Kinleo? He's actually just trying to crash into my Voldusk, which is fine, but I have so much background. I shield the Kinleo back. We play a Werepup. Just get ready to go search. We're going to grab it on the final quarter, and I think I'm at a point where I am super close to being able to trigger my Volclipse a second time this game, and I kind of force it, or attempt to force it, to get 8 Lunar Phases back in my Underworld because I drew the ability to send 2 again, plus my other cards. My Voldusk is going to trigger here, and this is just a crazy big board state. I have 3 cards face down, 3 drop, 2 1-drops, just picking away my opponent, getting more advantage. Going to go find another Voldusk, forget, wait, I already went through my Voldusk, so this is going to just fail to find, trigger my Voldusk to draw a card again. So hey, it's just cycling through my cards, trying to get more Lunar Phase back in my Underworld, get my Volclipse stats up a little bit higher in case of like an Argo play. I don't want my opponent to go like Kinleo, Argo, Necklace, and be able to get over my Volclipse. He's going to Gorgon's Gaze the Volclipse to prevent 3 damage from coming through. I then ping him for 2 more with my guys. He's going to play his Kinleo, and I'm still like, okay, he's got the Nexus Bank. That card shouldn't be on your screen so big. My apologies. I'm going to play first quarter during my opponent's end phase because he ended up not attacking with the Kinleo at all, and he's using this back row, which leads me to believe it's something like an Argo. Anywho, my turn continues. I go Voldusk trigger. I'm going to heal 2, draw a card. This deck just goes crazy after a while. I'm going to fail to find with another Winning Gibbous just to cycle the Winning Gibbous out of my hand, trigger the Voldusk to draw a card. And I am actually, at this point, I am 1 card away. I think it was I needed a full moon because I have New Moon in my hand. So I was going to see if I can get a full moon to discard to New Moon to trigger Volclipse again. Not because it's going to, win me the game, but because I thought it would be fun. And there's the Argo that I expected. So yeah, he's trying to like Kinleo Argo, Volclipse into Kinleo and go from there. But yeah, good game. Let's go into the best of 3 against Skyhawk. Skyhawk, he's going to start with the mulligan here, which is going to be pretty relevant going forward. He's playing a combo heavy deck, so he's going to mulligan a lot just to try to get his pieces. He's going to start with an Elechick, go search out a Zeus, pretty straightforward. He looks like he's just playing Thunder Next or something, right? Like Zeus is back at 3, Elechick's at 1, and he sets 1 back row. Nothing special here, so I'm going to do my deck's pretty much constant openers, play Voldusk. I want to try to start playing some cards with Voldusk. We're going to play a final quarter here. Start pitching some cards that I'm not going to use this matchup. Yeah, thin my deck out a little bit, so we're going to send both Waxing that are both 1-ofs in my deck to my Underworld right away because I probably won't need them in this matchup. There's no way the attack stat's going to be relevant against Zeus, and since he's playing Thunder and Zeus, I probably don't need the switching and protection from like EQ or Royal. It draws me 1 card off the Voldusk, and I set 3, and my opponent starts and goes with Electronite. He's going to trigger Receive Effect to get an Electrify out, which I'm just going to Gorgons this straight out, not even let him get the wide bodies. Stop the Electronite from doing anything this turn, and then an end phase flip 2 first quarters, which is going to let me draw 4 cards, 2 off first quarter, and then 2 off 2 separate Voldusk triggers, so 4 cards total. That was kind of a Hurricane bait set where it's like, okay, Gorgon, stop Celestial, and if he has Hurricane or something, I'll be able to just flip both these, get a bunch of draw cards, and punch the Hurricane. That didn't happen. And I happen to pull another Voldusk, so we're going to play Voldusk into another final quarter, dumping 2 more. I believe I dumped Full Moon here and possibly a New Moon? No, and a Waning Crescent. So I'm just filling up my Underworld with titles again. That basically cycles 1 card for 2, so I get to draw 2 triggers off Voldusk. And then I played a New Moon to pop this Electronite, which would cost me 3, but I'm also going to be able to draw some cards and potentially heal if I wanted to. The Spirits, I could have made that a 1-cost Earthquake effectively. I put 1 Voldusk in attack position, swing for 1, and my opponent's going to follow up with a Larvacell on their turn. And then play a Zeus here, but they forget that Larvacell is on a receive of a Solar. So they're going to put Thunder Spirits on this Zeus, realize after their Nexus that they put the wrong Spirits on Zeus to Nexus to trigger Larvacell to go comboing into Anacell, and he's going to live with it. I offered him a gentleman's like to leave the Spirits on Zeus, but he's going to keep it, and he's going to try to go Larvacell over my Voldusk. So Voldusk is pretty vulnerable at 1 attack, but Shield stops that. Bounces 2 Spirits, pretty good trade for me. I'm going to play a Werepump here, try to search out some more Lunar Phases, get Gorgons. That is pretty normal for this Werepump to go with my Gorgons. I flip my other Voldusk and he calls it. We're going to go to game 2 now. So he just kept drawing Larvacells. He let me go first, which I saw Larvacell, he's letting me go first. Now I pretty much know he's playing a Fossil combo deck going into game 2. He's trying to attack early and often. I start with a Rabbit set 1, and he's going to go Electronite. Electronite affected disenchant just like a Boom Bat would. I Gorgon's Electronite on effect to stop it from searching and effectively kill it. So after that, I'm going to go re-enchant Rabbit because I don't have a great hand, but I have a decent hand with some back rows. That's what the deck's built around. I'm going to play this final quarter here just to thin my deck out, get rid of the Waxing and Waxing here, and then punch with Rabbit for 2. No response with his 1 set face down. I have 1 good face down to kind of counteract whatever he's going. Now he's going to play a Larvacell here. And Larvacell probably means Anacell coming down because just like we saw with Zeus last game, but this time he's going to remember to properly enchant his bank with a Solar, so he can Nexus 1 Solar to the Larvacell, and let Larvacell special send into Anacell, which Anacell is going to sit on board for a second. He thinks for a moment what he's going to do with it, and he just goes straight into Fossil. It's going to enchant 2 more Spirits to the Fossil, and that allows him to effectively Thunderstorm off the Fossil for free. I'm going to chain my first quarter here as kind of a bluff to draw a card. I was just full bluffing. I had no protection for this rabbit, and he's going to swing over the rabbit with his Foster Cell, hit me for 2 damage, but I also got to at least sort of destroy his Thunderstorm off Foster Cell. Play a Werepup. I'm going to try and get a New Moon out. He Gorgons it, and then I just say, well, I already have New Moon. I basically baited you to Gorgon something that I already had access to, and get rid of the Foster Cell here, but that does hurt. That's a lot of spirits for that New Moon cast, and I have an attack position Werepup, and he goes Rise from the Ashes to get Anacell back, which means that Anacell is about to get huge. Plays Ambrosia with a Solar, which allows him to put a Thunder from Underworld on Anacell, then ascends Anacell with its effect to Foster Cell, gets 2 more spirits on it, hard ascends, since he hasn't used normally yet, into Electronite, to get another spirit on the board, gets a Electrify off the Electronite, which gives him exactly 8 spirits on board when I have 7 spirits left in my spirit deck to win the game here with the exact damage off that crazy combo. That's what his deck is trying to do. We're going to go through game 3 really fast. So it's not super eventful. Basically, I play rabbits at 2 pass. And this is after 3 mulligans from Skyhawk and 1 mulligan from me. He then expends to draw for his first turn. Expends to draw a second turn. Plays Nectar of Gods on his 3rd turn. Followed up with another Nectar of the Gods. So it's his 3rd turn. And he's drawn twice off Expended Draw. And 2 Nectar of Gods. And mulligan 3 times throughout the game. So he's already at like 8 spirits or something like that. Looking down 2 1-drops, no back row, and I'm just sitting here like, what are you doing this game? He's going to Ambrosia to heal up. He's going to try and stall as long as possible. His deck does get pretty explosive, but I have a huge, massive board advantage now with basically all 3 of my 1-drops in play, a full back row. A Hurricane, yes, is dangerous here, but I haven't seen it yet, and he plays the Hurricane that I haven't seen yet the entire time, and goes to blow up my entire back row. So I'm like, cool, I'll just go Full Moon here. I can at least ascend into Like a Void, and I'm going to put the spirits onto my Voldusk, ascend my Werepup Like Void with 2. This makes it so that if he has something to deal with one or the other, I'll still be able to hard ascend into a Volclipse from my hand on my next turn. He follows up that with just a Quackle. I ascend into a Volclipse, I have my Like a Void, and I just start swinging into his back row. There's not much he can do. His back row is just a Gorgon to stop some damage. He plays a Rabbit. Like, he's just healing and stalling right now. There's nothing really going on. I have both of my big Elestrals out, and that's basically it. Like, he just couldn't do anything because he expended all of his spirits. So let's just go jump into the wrap-up now, because that game 3 was a little bit of a letdown, unfortunately. But yeah, it's a fun deck, so let's talk about Voldusk Control. Okay, so matches are over. Those are pretty cool. Getting 3 Voldusk in play absolutely snowballs and go crazy to the point where I was almost able to trigger Volclipse twice. So let's talk about the pros of this deck. One, you get Voldusk like every single game because there's so many ways to get to it, and it's the very important starter for the deck to function. Is just Voldusk value into the point where you just find all your answers to your opponent's stuff, which is really relevant. And even if we weren't playing Volclipse, we can play a Voldusk engine, cut some of the more mediocre Lunar phase like Waxing Crescent, Final Quarter, maybe Waxing Gibbous. Slot another Like a Void for some of those more aggressive finishers, as well as Tsunamis, another Poison-Tipped Arrow, and more counter control runes. Just make the control deck run a little bit more smoother, but again, I wanted to play my full art Volclipse, so I squeezed the Volclipse in the deck, even though I do think this makes it, I wouldn't say substantially worse, but a good bit worse than if you just played a control package with this deck, where you could fit in some more counter runes or an Ash Rabbit to recycle more of your Lunar phases in the middle of the game, stuff like that. So I do think that Volclipse has a place in the deck, but I think the deck is better without Volclipse. And I would never play Volumbra, because anytime that Volumbra would ascend into Volclipse, you could just hard ascend into Volclipse by playing Full Moon and then ascending. So Voldusk is kind of the ugly child here, where it's just better not to play it in my opinion, but some people have been playing it with some mild success. Now all the cons. Really, really weak to Hurricane. If you saw like game 3 against Skyhawk there, and the amount of times that I have like 3 to 4 back row set and only 2 of them are live, Hurricane blows the deck out of the water. Additionally, everybody's side deck unintentionally will be able to deal with this deck. Spoiled Fruit destroys Voldusk, because Voldusk, you choose to return the spirit or draw a card at the resolution of Voldusk, so Spoiled Fruit is always able to pop Voldusk when Voldusk triggers. That's not good. That's really bad for the deck. Pandora's Box shuts down Werepup, shuts down Wayne and Gibbous, basically shuts down half the ways we get to Voldusk other than literally hard drawing Voldusk, which is also really bad, and a lot of people will be running Voldusk. Poison Nectar will be able to answer Voldusk because it draws you cards. Basically, every single silver bullet in the game, just based on how this deck works, will hit this deck whether your opponent's intending to or not, except for maybe Dense Fog. So you're immune to Dense Fog and you get hit by everything else. And that's really bad. So although this is my deck, this deck is my favorite deck, and there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do with it. It has a lot of weaknesses that I think will keep it out of being any kind of meta contender with Voldusk in it, because your opponent doesn't even need to prepare for this deck, because whatever they're preparing for will hit this deck as well, because of what this deck requires to search, heal, draw. Every silver bullet in the format hits it. The Divine Blessing hits it. Like, everything hits this deck really, really badly. And so that's the problem with the deck. But it is really fun to play, and it can be pretty enjoyable to be able to set 4, and your opponent goes Hurricane, you go, cool, I'll just go flip over 3 first quarters and draw 4 anyway, and you burn to Hurricane. So there's some fun moments where you can bait out things like you saw with the Fossil Cell kind of thunderstorming the first quarter with its effect. And I just was able to chain first quarter. The Hurricane, I was able to do some chaining to the Hurricane. So you're not dead in the water to Hurricane, but it is pretty detrimental to the deck and all the silver bullets. So really fun deck. It's very spell slingy. It's a lot of fun to play. Unfortunately, the deck would be really easy to acquire if not for Full Moon being extremely sought after right now. So it's I dare call it a budget deck if not for the fact that Full Moon is Full Moon. If Full Moon wasn't Full Moon, this would be a really, really fun budget deck to play. But Full Moon being Full Moon means the deck is, I think, just slightly out of people's budget mentality, especially for Elestrals, where a budget deck is really budget. But yeah, that's the deck for today. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.